welcome back to Salmon's Pizzeria for yet another episode of the Championship Penitentiary. I am, of course, your host, Callum Blythe, and as per usual, I am joined by Kieran Ashton. How are you, Kieran?
I I absolutely delighted to be on as always. It's always a pleasure coming on talking to you, Cal, talking about um the weekend results. It's a penultimate episode to the kind of regular season before the playoffs start, and I've got a couple of dead rubbers. That is certainly the Thistle game. Was certainly a dead rubber, but the same cannot be said for the bottom of the table, as you know, I'm sure we'll go on and talk about in good length. It's very interesting down the bottom end, and obviously there's a game on Friday night as well, which could end very interestingly, shall we say? Um, but I, nonetheless, I'm delighted to be back on, and I shoot the shit with you, I suppose.
As much as there's a couple of dead rubbers to go through, my word has the bottom of the table got properly interesting going into the final weekend. Um, Yeah, we'll just quickly, it's like as we do, we start off with a Friday night under the lights, and it was, of course, St Johnstone at home to Raith Rovers. This was trophy day for St Johnstone, having won the title on the previous Tuesday against Dunfermline, whilst Raith were hoping to keep whatever slim playoff hopes they had alive following their defeat away to Arbroath. I was along at this one. It was a lovely day. It was a really nice, really good night for it. It's really nice weather for it. It's great to experience the fan zone, as crowded as it was. I believe this game had well over, I think it was like the biggest attended game in the championship all season. It was well over 7,000. I think it's like Saints had basically is like one of the trying to think. There's a stand up alongside the pitch that was pretty much full, and then it's like the stands behind the goals were like sort of half full, and then there was the way in. I think we took something like 250, 300, and then again it's like you had like the hospitality bit, and then a few more home fans. So it was a really good atmosphere for this. Obviously with it being party day. And it's like any hopes of being party poopers, it's like, oh, maybe Saints have gone into this a bit hungover following Tuesday or whatever. We played like the hungover side. We were shocking. We were terrible. I think aside from Ennis Cameron having a header that went over, it's like kind of hoping for better. It's like if that goes in, it's probably a bit of a different game. But aside from that, this was all St Johnstone in the first half. They had it so easy. They were given a penalty 20 minutes in following Matthews fouling Fotheringham. At the time, I was very much unconvinced by it, and watching it back, I don't know. It looks really soft, but it's just like I've said it time and again on this podcast about not wanting to give the referee a decision because usually they'll will just point to the spot, and yeah, it is what it is. Jamie Gullen, he would just smash it home. He'd already had an effort earlier from a free kick that was well saved by Josh Ray, but aye, so it was like, yeah, it was pretty. It was coming. The goal was very much coming, and they would eventually double their lead. 41st minute after Jamie Garland would take a free kick from the edge of the box, as mentioned, pretty similar to the one earlier, but this one would be like right in the corner of the net. Josh Ray was not getting to it. Just the power that Jamie Garland has on these shots. It's like there's no stopping him. There's you're not likely to stop a Jamie Garland shot. And yeah, aside from that, it's like first half it was just all St Johnstone. Second half, meanwhile, they just sort of sat back just sort of relaxed. You know, there wasn't really any need. Rafe had more of the ball and sort of like half chances. They did have the ball in the back of the net, but it is the funniest offside that you will probably see this season. I think it's like karma for what happened with the fixture at Starks recently, the 0-0 draw, where Stanton's effort hit off of Josh Fowler and it just got cleared. This time it was Lewis Vaughan, Lewis Vaughan's effort, just like hitting off of O'Connor, who was stood on the line, and the ball went in the roof of the net. And again, at the time, I was just like, why has that been called for offside? And I thought, like, watching live, I thought Vaughan had like hit it like straight into the roof of the net or whatever. You know, you're thinking, oh, come on, that's it, game on. And you just see it be called off for offside. And it took until watching the highlights there for me to realise why is O'Connor on the line? It's just pretty ridiculous. But I will say, like, speaking of ridiculous, oh my word, I can't remember who the referee was, but he had a bet on. I am fully convinced he had a bet for yellow cards in the first half because there were 7 in total. It was like three for players on both teams, so 3 each for players on both teams and Dougie Imbrie. And then I don't think there was a single booking in the second half. It was just bizarre. You know, it's like you're going into the second half after watching the first, thinking someone is going to get sent off for something really, really stupid. It's like half the players were on bookings, but no, there wouldn't be any sending off or whatever, and Saints would have a pretty comfortable night to lift their league title on their own perch. Party not ruined, unfortunately, and yeah, as I said, it was just really easy for them in the first half, and again, they just sort of cruised for the second half. Rafe, meanwhile, no more away games. I am saved. I am saved from away games this season. You know, it's like we finished the season with an incredible record of 18 games and 9 goals scored. Brecon City, when they finished bottom of the table with 4 points and didn't get a single point away from home, scored 10. So, you know, it's nice to be in that sort of conversation, but, you know, it's like at least we were actually able to win, I think, 3 games away from home. But I remember making a big song and dance about this, and I was fully prepared to just like make something about how, oh, this is historically bad. Dunfermline last season scored 8. So, you know, it's like better than Dunfermline last season. I will take it. But yeah, it's like with that result, that was it, done and dusted. Best we could do was fifth. No playoffs. The believe hype, it was over. You know, it was nice to have hope for like 6 days, but yeah, it's like because of that, Dunfermline they guaranteed themselves the playoffs, and again, it's like for Rafe, it's just a case of I've only got one more game to watch this season, and then it's done. It's over. I'm just kind of waiting for it. Kieran, any thoughts on this game to add?
I never got to watch it live. Unfortunately, I was working on Friday. But watching the highlights back, it was just pretty much one-way traffic, wasn't it? For St Johnstone, especially in the first half. Obviously, got their 2 goals. The Jamie Garland free kick was really good. We've got to admit, but it could have been a lot more, and it was just as routine as you like. It's kind of what you would expect for a team that's just won the league, and it's a trophy day. You can expect them to go on and go back, go to the game at home and kind of put on a kind of show for their fans. Mind you, it could have been a lot more, as I said, and maybe they should have, probably put Rafe properly at the sword. But as soon as they got their 2 goals at half time, I mean, they didn't really need to do much. They could afford to kind of take the foot off the gas and stand back a wee bit. And obviously for Rafe Rovers, obviously they were challenging for not challenging, but they had a kind of slight glimmer of hope for the playoffs. But it was a free hit for Rovers. But that's pretty much it. I don't really I wouldn't have really thought that Raith Rovers were expecting to get anything out of this game, especially with St Johnstone kind of securing the league on the Tuesday, winning the league on Tuesday. So it's just pretty much a free hit. And as you said, it just kind of. I wouldn't say an underwhelming season for Raith Rovers because they did kind of find themselves in a bit of trouble a couple of months ago, but you managed to kind of drag yourself out of that. And I don't think Raith would have been in any danger, Callum, really. But I mean, I was kind of edging towards that a wee bit, especially. I think like you were losing at home as well. Lost a couple of games of that. Fife derby as well, where Dunfermline absolutely pummeled you, and you didn't look good. I think that was when it was starting to look a bit thingy for Raith. But I think there's worse teams in the division. I think for Raith Rovers, really, I think it's just kind of washing your hands of this league and going again next season. Obviously, next week we'll go on to talk about the fixtures, but you've got a chance to properly relegate Ross County. I'm assuming you're looking forward to that.
It's like going into, it's like before for the pre-season prediction, I predicted Reef to finish fourth. But if you'd said beforehand, oh, you'd finish fifth, but you would win the Challenge Cup, I've just been like, that's perfectly fine. Just as long as we're competitive. But it has been properly saved by the past month and a bit because it's like there was a point where when we were 1-0 down to Airdrie, we were tied bottom, and it's like after the Palace game, it's like I had properly hit the panic button, and at that point it was borderline nuclear option of just like, oh no, oh no, we're going to League One. But I was like last month, when we, it's like we came back to beat Airdrie. Whilst yes, we did lose the streak against Partick Thistle. We did get that win against a pretty comfortable win against Ayr. We then won the Challenge Cup and beat Morton and Queens Park away. And it's just sort of like in the space of a month we've gone from we might be going down to we might get the promotion playoffs, and it's just sort of like the last two games just been sort of a bit of a dampener on what was like the little bit of hope that we've had this season. It's like for much of the season it was sort of Dunfermline, Ayr, and it was like sort of like Dunfermline and Ayr sort of like fourth and fifth, and then us in sixth are sort of like not quite good enough to be in that conversation, but we were like riding on the coattails, but we were less shit than Morton, Airdrie, and Ross County, and it's like we had the past month and whatnot, as I said, and it's like the bit of a belief, but then that's gone. But yeah, it's like when it does come to like the final round of fixtures, it is a case of there's nothing really riding on it for us, but relegating County 2 years after they beat us 6-1 in the Premiership playoff final is really funny, and I really hope we get that over the line. I'm begging, just just like go out on a high, send County down, and I think we've got something like there's something like 14 players in this squad who have loans ending or their contracts are up, and it's like considering how many of them were here 3 seasons ago, and it's like plenty of. It's a case of plenty of good memories, especially that 23-24 season, but it is a case of time's come. It's time for a reset. I think there'll be a big reset over the summer. Dougie Emery's alluded to as so in the press and in his interviews about, it's like he's the one that's in charge of recruitment now. We don't have John Potter. He's been away, and so it'll be definitely an interesting summer for us just to just rebuild, just because it's like the real problem has been the fact that it's like I think we had like the second oldest squad in the league behind Ross County. We were really lacking a bit of pace here and there that sort of thing. That's just really what our problem's been this season, and that, and obviously playing away from home. That has been a real problem. It's like our home form is fourth in the league, but then our away form is eighth. Only Morton and Ross County have worse than us, but as mentioned, we've only scored 9. So we'll see. It's like hopefully with a rebuilt squad, a functioning strike force. I like to see how we can press on next season, but yeah, St Johnstone. It'll be interesting to see how they do next season in the Premiership. We have seen the last few years. We've seen Dundee United go up and end up in Europe. Falkirk have gone up and ended up in the top 6. I think who went up before Dundee United? I think it was Killy.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Killy. They went up and ended up in the top 6. I want to see. I think they got Europe as well.
They did, yeah. They ended up playing Copenhagen.
Aye. So I think St Johnstone will do well next season. There's definitely the building blocks in place. They've definitely got a very strong squad that would definitely do well against the sides towards the bottom of the Premiership this season. I think they would definitely be in that. I don't think they would have anything to worry about when it comes to safety. Really, I think they'll be well clear of it. They've just been too good this season.
Yeah, definitely. Callum, I think they'll be all right. I mean, I said last season as well when Falkirk went up that they would be absolutely fine. I didn't expect them to, get top 6 or whatever and kind of challenge Motherwell for Europe. Obviously, they've kind of fell off it now a wee bit, but they've still secured top 6. And the notion that Championship clubs are, when they go up, they're going to go back down. It's not really the case. I mean, I don't know, but 50% of me saying St Johnstone is going to struggle next season. The other 50% saying, nah, I think they'll be all right. But I mean, fact of the matter is, they've got themselves back up first time asking, and you couldn't really ask for more. So I think if they failed to go up this season with the money they spent, um, they would have took a massive hit financially. I think they already did take a massive hit financially to get up this season, but they can afford to do that because they are such a well-run club. That's not me trying to blow smoke up St Johnstone's arse or anything like that, but no, they definitely are a well-run club, and you can see that as well. It'd be interesting to see how Simo does. So obviously, I think he came midway through the Premiership. I'm pretty sure when he went down. So it would be good to see how he, not good, but interesting to see how he does. With a full kind of pre-season before the Premiership, but I think they'll be all right. I don't know. I can't really call it at this moment. Obviously they've lost Josh McPake as well to Hearts on a pre-contract, so that'll be a bit of a blow. But I think they could kind of replace him. With the money they've got, they seem to be doing well with that, especially with their recruitment and that as well. But obviously it'll be hard to replace somebody the quality of Josh McPake. But I mean, again, I think I said it last week, but I can't really complain about them, going up. They were, easily the best team in the league, and I deserve it, and kudos to them. I that is what it is, to be honest. But Rafe Overs, obviously, again, next season, it's just kind of, but as I said, just kind of wash your hands of it. You've got one more game in the league, and that's the league done. Obviously, you would have liked to be in the playoffs, but I don't know. I think you would have properly struggled if you got there. I think you would have kind of definitely stumbled in if you got into the playoffs. But with Ray Forwards again, that'll be interesting to see how Dugamra does again with a full pre-season behind him. And as I say, he seems to be kind of wanting to rebuild something. I think a few of the players are rumoured to be leaving. I think the likes of Easton and stuff like that are rumoured to be going elsewhere. So that's two. I think Brown is one of them as well. So that's 2 players that have been at Rafe Rovers for quite a few years now. You know what I mean? The kind of core of the squad, and it'll be interesting to see if they do go, then who first of all who they go to, and who Rafe Rovers bring in to replace them. But I think a kind of rebuild is needed for Raith Rovers, especially after obviously they had that title race against with Dundee United, but since then they've not really done much. Last season they were missed out on us, thankfully, in the playoffs, but you were very close to clinching them last year, but this season again it's been a bit of I would say a stop-start season for the for Raith Rovers. I don't know if you'd agree with that, but it's been very, very inconsistent, shall we say. As you said, you also lack that pace and that as well. Bit of a bit of you know clinicalness up top, and obviously until you brought in that Innes Cameron, I think you properly rate him. Whether they get him in a not in a pre-contract, sorry, or a permanent or not, might be the difference between you properly challenging next season. Again, you obviously need to see who is in the league, who comes down for the championship, who stays up, who if we go up, if we don't go up this season, I think it'll be pretty interesting.
It will be interesting to see how that goes. As you say about us stumbling into the playoffs, if we had got into the playoffs, it would have been an absolute travesty. Because I think of the 16 games against the top four, we won 3, and I think we have 2 draws, 2 or 3 draws in that. So it wasn't. We would not have gone far in the playoffs. It would have been nice to be there, but it's not the end of the world, especially with how we've been against them. And speaking of playoffs, we move on to Queen's Park at home against Dunfermline. Queen's Park, they didn't really have anything to play for aside from potentially, like chasing Raith for 5th. Meanwhile, Dunfermline, thanks to the Friday night result, they were guaranteed their playoff spot, and it was just a case of trying to reel in Arbroath. Chaloka Mullen would get the opener for the Powers after 25 minutes, after he headed home a second ball in following a corner. And then 30 seconds into the second half, a cross ball would find the head of Chris Kane to double the visitors' lead. It's pretty much all Dunfermline this one, which, considering the situation that Queen's Park find themselves in, isn't really that surprising. Although Dunfermline, they were unable to get a third, pretty comfortable victory for them. Going into the final day, then Queen's Park can still theoretically get 5th, but as mentioned, considering the state of the squad, if Enzo was here, he would say about how they have basically a first 11 worth of players out injured. It's like their bench is pretty much all youth players who. Speaking of, on the Tuesday night, they did lose 4-0 at Hampden against Hearts in the Youth Cup final. But, it's like fair play for them to get into, a National Cup final. Granted, youth level, but still pretty good for them. So it will be interesting to see how many of them would end up in the Queen's Park first team next season, just depending on how much they have impressed. But yeah, not really too much to talk about with Queen's Park. Dunfermline, meanwhile, it is a triple header against Arbroath, we'll put it that way, because we know that they will be facing them in the playoff quarter-finals, but, it's like Friday night's game is a case of who will be at home and when, because if it stays as it is, Dunfermline will be the home side on the Tuesday, and then Arbroath will be the home side on the Friday, and it's like if Dunfermline win, then vice versa. But yeah, pretty comfortable win for Dunfermline. Don't think there can be much complaints from the Queen's Park side. Kieran, anything to add?
I think you pretty much hit a nail on the head, to be honest. Other than prize money, really, Queen's Park were playing for, as you say, they could probably potentially catch Raith. The result meant nothing, really, in the grand scheme of things. It's pretty much all Dunfermline. But I think you'd as you said, with a hindered squad that Dunfermline Queen's Park had, sorry, with their injuries and whatnot. I'm surprised it wasn't more than the goals that they scored. But I deserved their win, and it could have been more than 2 on the day. to be honest. But with Queen's Park, I think they're just kind of glad they've got over the line. They've kind of saved themselves out of they've got themselves out of any trouble because we are the squad kind of injury crisis that they've got now. That if they were still in like danger again getting down or the playoffs, whatever, that could have been catastrophic for them. So I think they'll be glad they had that run from like February till kind of April. After even after they lost Josh Fuller, they managed to get a couple of wins together. And I mean that just shows you what happens. In this league, you're a couple of wins away for challenging for the playoff spots, or you're a couple of losses away for getting dragged right back down, as we can see with how kind of tight the bottom end is at the table, and we'll go on to talk about that, I'm sure. But I with Dunfermline, it pretty much is just preparing for the playoffs, and obviously they've got that cup final as well against Celtic, which is like 2 days. I think it's sandwiched in between. If they get to the playoff final, it would be sandwiched between the first leg and the second leg, which is absolutely mental to think about. Um, but they'll have one eye on that, and I think a lot of people are kind of dismissing them for them and think, oh, they'll have one eye in the cup, they'll have, they'll not make it through, but that could be a catalyst for a team to gain momentum, being like, look, we've got this cup final to play for, why not go even one better and get promoted, back to the Premiership for the first time in what 12, 13 years was the last time they were in the Premiership, I think. So aye, they've got that as well. I think personally out the two of them, obviously we're going to talk about Arbroath and that when we get the official section, or the Arbroath official section, sorry, but I'd much rather play them Fairman, I think. But at the same time, they're on a decent bit of form now, you could say. They could carry that into the playoffs, and obviously we know the threats that Dunfermline can carry as well. So, I but I think just going over, like, I don't want to go to Gayfield for a playoff. That sounds like death. To be honest, that sounds really difficult. So, I think Arbroath would be pretty tricky. Would have been a trickier tie for us. Over the two of them, but I mean, Dunfermline have done themselves well. I think for quite a while, Ayr had that fourth position, not so much locked down, but nobody could really catch them because of how inconsistent the teams were before Christmas and after New Year. But then Dunfermline have just, as I said, strung a couple of wins together, and have got themselves in a good run of form, positive run of form, and I've got themselves fourth place. I think if they were in it, it would be a fucking travesty with how shite they've been this season. So I think Dunfermline out the teams, out the midfield pack, and I'm including Rafe Rovers in this category as well. I think Dunfermline probably are the deserved, the deserved team to finish in the fourth place. I don't think they've got any arguments for that, Callum. I don't think they've been too bad this season. Maybe at the start of the season they had a bit of a wobble, but other than that, I think they've been all right. They've not been, poor that Ayr have. They've been very poor, I think, this season. Maybe even Queen's Park. I think Queen's Park maybe would have been deserved a shout for how they've gotten through losing Fowler and their injuries and whatnot. I think if Queen's Park were in it, I'd been like, do you know what, fair play. But I think Dunfermline overall, I think they kind of do deserve that fourth place. I don't think I don't think MD's get any arguments for that. You know what I mean? But I would Dunfermline and Arbroath on Friday night. That's just going to be. I think that's just going to be 0-0. Just same as what Arbroath and Thistle was on Saturday. Obviously, we're going to talk about that, but I don't really see any team going gung ho for this. It's basically a friendly at this point, you know what I mean, and just a warm up for the playoffs. You know what I mean, I think the playoffs is where you'll see the proper gung ho fighting between them two. But it's probably psychological advantage more than anything else that Dunfermline and Arbroath will be looking to gain over each other heading into the two games. But other than that, I don't really see much. Obviously, again, positions in the league, whatnot, and there's probably prize money there to be won as well. But other than that, I don't really see that being a spectacle to behold. But aye.
It's an interesting point you bring up with Dunfermline in the playoff final. If you were, let's say Dunfermline were to make it to the final, obviously that does involve them beating Partick Thistle, which I hope doesn't happen. But if you
Neither do I.
were, if you were in that situation where you had the playoff final, but in the middle, Scottish Cup final, would you prioritise the cup final or getting promotion to the Premiership?
I think you'd prioritise the Scottish Cup final. To be honest, I know it's against Celtic, but you know you're in the final for a reason. But the playoffs, I don't know. That is a tough question. I think if you're asking, if you're asking a Thistle man that's seen his team in the Premiership for 5 years, but he's not seen his club reach a semi final since. Aye, we've not been in a cup semi final since 2002, and I've certainly not seen Thistle in a cup semi final. I'd take the cup. It's a chance to get to Europe and that as well. And if you're going to remember a cup win, you're not going to remember like getting to the playoff final and not getting through that. I don't know if that makes sense, but um, I no, I think the only I wouldn't be surprised if it's Arbroath from the semi final just for the fact that I I don't know if Dunfermline want that you know that the fixture's been bogged down like that. I don't know. But I mean, if Dunfermline get through it and they get through it the final, then it's going to be mental, isn't it? I think they'll probably be the busiest team in Scottish football. I don't think we've actually ever seen that before, that a schedule that busy. I don't know if they'll have to kind of rejig that about. Because I don't know I don't know how the players will have to train and then rest, and they'll only get like 1 day of training on either side of them. You know what I mean? Before like they'll have the 1 day off, or they'll have the playoff final. Sorry, first leg on the Thursday, day off Friday, cup final on the Saturday, day off Sunday, and then on the Monday they'll have the second leg. But I don't know, but I would personally go for the cup. I don't know how you would do it.
If I would absolutely, I don't think it's a. I think it's no brainer for going for the cup. Really, it's like winning cups is a memorable experience, and it's like with Dunfermline especially, it's like that squad is they've done well. They've deserved to get into this playoff position that they're in. It's like as I said, there's that sort of trio of Rafe, Dunfermline, and Ayr, and it was a case of Rafe sort of being shit, but then having a really good month, and but it's like not quite enough. Dunfermline had a really good 2 month period. They went on like this mad run. I think it was something like 9 wins and 10 in all competitions. It just flew up the table, and then Ayr, meanwhile, just utterly collapsed. But even with that, we're going into the final game. They're 15 points behind Thistle in second. They're 24 behind St Johnstone, and it's like the inconsistency they have shown. I think another season in the Championship, especially with how young that squad is, would do them a load of good. I think it's like this is really good foundation to build on when you consider the squad age. It's like they've gained a year of experience. They've the aforementioned really good run. They can maybe try and like build that up over a season with a couple of additions and go for the league title, which I don't think is fully out of the question if they remain in this division for next season. But then it's like winning the Scottish Cup. It's winning the Scottish Cup. Like that's just the pinnacle. Is aside from Hearts this season, it's like you're not going to win the Premiership. Next best thing is the cup, and as mentioned, it's like you get Europe with it. It will be. It's like if I'm Dunfermline's position, I would prioritise that cup final. It's like they would. I feel pretty confident in saying that they would get past Arbroath. I think they'll probably. I think both teams will probably rotate quite heavily for Friday just to prepare for the playoffs. But yeah, I think the Vermin will get past Arbroath. Probably lose to Thistle. Just sort of kind of hope 50-50 knowing and hoping they'll lose to Thistle. But yeah, and it's like as you mentioned with Queens Park, it's like their goal for this season was absolutely survival, and it's like that big run in February and into March has definitely helped with that. Speaking of Arbroath, we will go into their game against Partick Thistle with Arbroath guaranteeing the playoffs following their victory against Rafe last weekend, whilst Thistle they've been guaranteed second place for a while now. Kieran, you made the trip through to Gayfield, so I'll let you take us away.
I did take I did take the trip up to Arbroath on Saturday, and honestly, I think this is probably going to be the shortest like analysis of a game you're going to get from me, which is shocker because my analysis normally take like 70% of the actual episode. But honestly, the game was nothing to write home about at all. It was a pretty pedestrian game of football. For me personally, it was kind of I wanted to. I was thinking about it before the game, but I know I want to win. I want to win going up to Arbroath because then if we've not beaten Arbroath this season. We've not, obviously, certainly not beaten them at Gayfield, but we've not beaten them at all this season. If we then face them in the playoffs, and we need to go to Gayfield, having not beaten them there yet, it'd be pretty tough. It'd be pretty tricky heading into that. Given us getting a win would have been, would have gave us a psychological advantage heading into that. But I mean, getting to the game on Saturday, it was all about getting minutes into the legs of the players, especially the players that had been injured. So Watt, Smith, Mackay, and Chalmers all started on Saturday. Watt, I think, lasted about 80 minutes or something like that. I think Mackay Stephen lasted about 60. I think the same with Chalmers as well. I think he lasted a bit longer. The key of that the overall point, the overall goal for that game was just avoiding any injuries and suspensions. So obviously, they've got Dan Mackay out for 2 games, so he was out and he missed Saturday's game, and he's missing Friday because he got I think he's accumulated too many yellow cards. Sorry, after he picked one up away Airdrie. But I mean, I'm not really that bothered about it. You know what I mean? Obviously now we don't really we certainly don't have the league to kind of fight for now. So I was kind of wasn't bothered about that. But first half, from memory, I didn't even watch a highlights. That's how not arsed I wasn't about this game. This is just pretty much all from memory. But first half, Chalmers missed about 5 yards. It was a lovely passage of play. And I think it might have been Paddy Redden. I'm not entirely sure. It might have been Cammy Logan actually because he started. But I think he whipped the ball over after a lovely passage of play between Watt and whatnot. I think Watt and Chalmers were looking really well. On Saturday, were looking up really well. But then Chalmers just missed it. I think he put it past the post. Could really convert it. And then second half, Chalmers missed again from a short free kick by. It was a glorified friendly, more or less, and both teams were pretty much just keeping their cards close to their chest, not really wanting to do too much before the playoffs. Obviously, the highlight of the game, though, I've got to note this. I don't know if you've seen it on TikTok or whatever, but there was a pitch invader. There was this, specky guy, and at first I seen the specs. I was like, "What the hell's Callum doing up at Gayfield?" You know what I mean? But a pitch invader for the Arbroath side ran on the pitch and was like, I don't know, I think he was about 16, 17, young boy, run on pitch, like coding the Thistle fans, blah, 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 and then ran back into the home end, and he was trying to dodge the stewards who were trying to get him. And Arbroath dad and grabs the boy and puts him against the wall and shoves him to the stewards. Genuinely, one of the funniest things I've seen at a football match. It was funny as fuck. I don't know why the boy done it. Aye, and then the stewards then proceeded to huckle him and then carry like the whole length of the stadium. It was amazing. It was funny. But aye, that was the only highlight of the game. Which kind of tells you all you need to know about the football that was on show. Um, but I again, it was just about getting minutes in the legs. That's it. There was no competitive edge to the game at all. Our Broth, I don't think offered much as well. From memory. But that's just what it was all about. We've got that week off. Obviously, we've got the game on Friday night, and I think again that'll be more of the same. Just kind of. I think we'll want to maintain the home record. Obviously, we've not been beaten at home this season yet. We want to maintain that. We don't want to lose that. But other than that, I think it's again just avoiding any injuries or suspensions, and you want to go out in the home game with a bang, the last game of the season. Put a show on, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's more of the same. Just kind of again getting minutes to the legs of the players, getting players match fit before we get that week off heading into the playoff semi-finals. But to say I was like not arsed about this game at all, I wasn't. The day out was better than the game of football, and that's all we can ask for really.
It's not really much to talk about here. It's like we mentioned Arbroath a bit earlier, just sort of like tying him with Dunfermline about the triple header, with like next week and the best one. It's just like again decent point against a team at second, but it's pretty much a dead rubber. And like you say, for Thistle, it's just minutes in the legs. You're just really waiting on what happens next weekend and the week following when it comes to the playoffs.
Just to add on as well, Callum, I don't know if you've seen, but just, before we come on, Dunfermline and Arbroath have agreed on ticket prices for the playoff games. It's £12 for an adult and six for a concession, which I think is absolutely fantastic. I think more so for Dunfermline fans who obviously have an expensive month with Scottish Cup final tickets and whatnot, on sale. So it's good for both them to come together and kind of agree on very cheap ticket prices heading into that. I think they'll be wanting a full house for the playoffs. And obviously, Dunfermline fans will be paying through the nose for the Scottish Cup final tickets. So I think that's certainly something to be noted and something that should be given credit for as well.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's. I read the statement earlier, and I believe it's like those prices were a case of like the absolute minimum that could be set. And it's like absolutely fair play, as you mentioned. It's like those Scottish Cup final tickets are going to be expensive. I think the semi-final tickets, I think for an adult were something like 35, 40 quid or something like that. And it's got to be a bit more than that. It's like typically when an Old Firm side is involved, it's like what, 60 quid for a ticket, because it's like the SFA get a cut and they know that they can charge up to that much, like that sort of level, because well, like Celtic have the fan base to sell that out anyway.
Mm.
Whereas it was like Dunfermline, I don't want to say they don't have the fan base to sell that out. It's like it is a cup final. It's like it doesn't come along quite often, but it's like 60 quid. It's a lot of money, and
I think I went to the League Cup final again. Sorry, the St Mirren Celtic game in the St Mirren end as a neutral, and I mean I wasn't a neutral for that game as well. Obviously, I wanted St Mirren to absolutely pump Celtic. Obviously, they did that back in December, but I think the tickets were like 40 quid or something like that. We got them through somebody close that we know. I think it was my friend who passed away. I think it was his brother that bought them, and I think they were like 40 quid or something like that. He bought them with season tickets. So I think they were like 40 quid again. It's mental money, absolutely mental money. If it was the average prices, I think last year, I think it was like 20 quid for our playoff tickets. So like Dunfermline fans would be playing like nearly 100 quid for three game, like maybe 3, 4 games of football if it was the standard pricing. So again, good on them for coming to a sensible decision.
it definitely is the case. It's like I say, it's like championship ticket prices are usually, for an adult, they're about 20 quid, I'd say. Whereas, it's like in the Premiership, they're usually about, I think they're about 25, 30. Not that I would know because I've not been in the Premiership for about 27 years. But yeah, typically, like a bit more. But then it's like you get to Hampden and Cup games, and it's like because, you know, it's, I think, it's like when there isn't an old firm involved, it's like you do see, it's like, say it's like Celtic are playing against Rangers, you'll see it's like the ticket prices are up. They're like
No,
65, 70 quid. If Rangers and Celtic are on like opposite sides of the semi-final draw, they'll drop them down a bit to around about that 50, 60 range. And, it's just like if neither are involved in the very rare instances it happens, you see it as like they drop to like about 30, 40 quid.
50 pence.
It's just a joke, man.
Aye,
It prices people out. It's a
definitely.
rare occasion for us wee teams, and it's like you'll have a not insignificant contingent just not able to go just because of the price, and I think it's a real shame. So, aye, well done to Dunfermline and Arbroath for coming to that agreement. So, we'll move on to the bit that we're all really waiting for, and that is, of course, the shenanigans at the bottom end of the table. We, of course, have Airdrie at home to Ayr United. A massive game as Airdrie look to potentially, depending on the results, they could have guaranteed their safety. Well, guaranteed not automatically being relegated. That is, and if not, then potentially gain ground on Morton. Meanwhile, Ayr United, nothing to play for. Again, it's like theoretically they can catch Rafe, but it's like goal difference and all that sort of stuff. It makes it fairly unlikely. It would be the visitors opening the scoring. Leon King would head home from a corner in the 26th minute. But then in the second half, Robbie Mahan would equalise with his first touch after the corner would sort of fall to him and he would just poke it home in the 68th minute. And, it was like Airdrie pressed, it was like Airdrie with the team on top in the second half and they would complete their comeback after, again, a free kick would sort of like go over the box towards like the other end. It would be headed back into the middle. And then Charlie MacArthur, with his volley, would manage to get into sort of the roof of the net. 85th minute. Pretty late winner for the Diamonds in what proved to be a massive, massive victory for them. So I don't think there's really much point in talking about Ayr. As mentioned, there's like nothing to play for. They have St Johnstone next week. Don't see much hope for them. They're probably going to finish where they are. It's like the worst they can finish is 8th if Morton manage to get a win next week. But whatever happens, happens. It's not really much going on with them. But Airdrie's a big talking point here. The fact that it's like we've been saying the last couple of weeks about them. It's like having a lead and then dropping points from leads, that whole sort of thing. They've done a reverse. They've come from behind to win. Not entirely convinced they have done that this season. I'm happy to be corrected on that point. But with that, and thanks to the Ross County Morton game, Airdrie are 2 points behind Morton. And they play them on the final day. Granted, it is away from home, but it's a case of a potential great escape. Kieran, thoughts on Airdrie and Ayr?
I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head. I think the start of it was a pretty good end to end game before they took the lead, which obviously would have set panic in. Cheers a wee bit considering, what was going on up in Dingwall with the County Morton game, potentially County, having a chance to catch them. But Airdrie pressured them, as you said, and deservedly they got back into the game and through Robbie Mahan, Mahon. Sorry, is it Robbie Mahan? Robbie Mahan.
Yeah, something like
Aye,
that.
aye. I don't think I'll be watching, so if he is, don't apologies, severe apologies for getting your name wrong there if I did. But aye, and then he took the lead. I think there was no real surprises there, but it's a massive result. It takes it into Friday night, and it makes that game very interesting. I think if County beat Raith Rovers, they can still go down as well. Depending on how what goes on with that, depending on what goes on at Cappielow, it's mad. Um, I actually fancy getting the result at Cappielow. I actually fancy them beating Morton at Cappielow. I don't know what the record is, but the showing that Morton put on up at Dingwall, obviously, I think we've still got that game to cover. I would not be surprised if Airdrie do it and make the great escape, as he says. I fancy them away to Cappielow.
It's 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 probably gotten interesting down there. You know, it's like Airdrie pulling off a great escape 2 seasons in a row. But I mean, there is like a massive caveat for last season of Aki's.
Aye.
But I was like to do it this season. You know, it's like
Without
with
that
no
Aki's
points
points deduction as
deduction.
well, that would have made the relegation. Like you had Queens Park who were absolutely dreadful. You had Dunfermline who was absolutely dreadful, getting dragged down the bottom. It was Aki's
Rafe,
like
who were
points
absolutely
deduction
dreadful
that
getting dragged down.
completely, yeah, that
Oh
completely
wait,
saved
this
them.
oh no, wait, it's like last season I with Queens Park and
Yeah, last
Dunfermline. Is that
season,
what
yeah.
yeah.
Aye, like Queens Park were absolutely dreadful, and Dunfermline as well. I think they were the worst scorers in the SPFL as well, and the lowest scorers in
They
the
were like the
SPFL.
fourth worst attacking like the entire pyramid, all 10
Yeah,
divisions.
that if it wasn't for that, Aki's point deduction, they'd have been right down there as well. So that would have made it interesting. But this season, Airdrie again on merit. Last season again, they still, made the great escape off their own back. Got the results, and they still done it. But I, I would not be surprised if they do it again. Um, because I just do not fancy Morton at all now. I think they are shockingly bad. I'm not saying Airdrie. I think Airdrie have been playing fantastic football. They just kind of make it last for the 90 minutes, and it's the odd stupid mistake. The odd stupid mistake that costs some points. But Morton are just watching the highlights, which I know we'll go on to. But nah, they are shocking.
It'll be interesting to see how it goes. You know, it does involve Airdrie getting back-to-back wins for the first time in the league since December, where coincidentally it was beating Ross County and Morton both away from home. So you know, it's very much in the realms of possibility of Airdrie managing to find a way to stay up. But it's yeah, it would be an incredible achievement if they do stay up. But yeah, A United meanwhile, again, there's nothing there. They're just waiting for this season to end. You know, it's like after Scott Brown was sacked and they got that win a couple of weeks back against Arbroath, it's just like right, that's it. They're safe. Job's done. Just get to the end of the season. Just again, a bit like Rafe, just sort of rebuild and try and do something for next season. And as we have quite heavily alluded to in that segment, it is time to cover the Ross County against Morton. Definitely the big talking point of this past weekend. Ross County looking to build on their win against an out of County looking to build on their win against A United. Meanwhile, Morton, if they were to get a win, they would have guaranteed their survival. They did not win. they, my god, even like a draw, and you would have been thinking, okay, I know like it's like with the goal difference going into it, it would have been. I think they would have. I think Airdrie would have needed to win 2-0 or like win by 2 goals or something like that to stay up. So you'd have been thinking, okay, if So it's looking very favourable for Morton. No. Just no. County took the lead 10 minutes in with Akil Wright heading home from a corner. Jordan Wright, Jordan White, 10 minutes later, his first time effort would then find the bottom corner to make it 2-0 going into half time. Early on in the second half, Noah Chilvers would give County their third after a botched clearance would find his way to him at the edge of the box. His first time effort, again finding the bottom corner, and then Ryan Duncan in the 80th minute would have a first time effort find the bottom corner from the edge of the box. That made it 4-0 to Ross County, and what is proved to be a huge, huge victory for them. Because, it was a case of with like before this game, the goal difference swing was 12 in Morton's favour, and so it's like whilst yes, County winning would have meant it would have been theoretically possible for Morton to finish 10th. It would have required like some mad scenario of like a 10-goal swing, an 8-goal swing, or something like that. See, because they've won 4-0, it's like if Ross County beat Rafe 2-0 and 2-0 or more, and Airdrie win by 2 goals or more, or it's like if it's 3-0 County, 1-0 Airdrie, that whole sort of thing. Morton can finish bottom. Just out of nowhere. It's like a month ago, when they did beat Arbroath, they were just like, well, that's it safe. That's Morton finishing 7th or 8th, as they usually do. Just typical Morton. They've done just enough to stay up. They're in the shit. They're it's like lost 3 and drawn 1 of their last 4. And when you consider the fact is that Airdrie in the last 5 have got 2 wins and 2 draws, and Ross County have now got back-to-back wins. They're they're properly in the shit. They're properly in the shit now. It will be interesting to see, as mentioned, whether Airdrie can get a win at Cappielow, because it is just a case of, it's like with the aforementioned goal difference swing, and the fact that it is 2 points, so it would just be a case of if Airdrie win, that's safe. How would Morton do in the playoffs on this form? Especially if they come in with 4 losses and a draw in their last 5. And as mentioned, it's like they had that 4-0 defeat against Stenhousemuir in the Scottish Cup, and it's like, how would they do against Stenhousemuir in the playoff? How would they do against Queen of the South? How would they do against Outlaw, whoever it is that whoever finishes ninth and end up playing? It's real concern that they've just sort of sleepwalked into relegation, haven't they?
Aye, pretty much. I don't even know where to begin. I think I've went through like 3 or 4 times this season and been like, I think Morton will be all right. Like I've been of the opinion that Morton will be fine. They'll just stay up. They'll be fine. I've now gotten to the case where I can genuinely see them getting relegated on Friday. I can see it. And now we're at the point now as well. Ross County pulling a wee bit here on now. Too little, too late, perhaps, but for the playoffs, that's the form you want heading into it. 2 wins, back to back. But it's absolutely mental. I never would have thought like this was going to happen like towards the end of it. I thought Morton were just going to stay up and be all right, not on the verge of being relegated, like properly bottom. And there's a few Morton fans as well generally worried if they go down. Like if they go down, will they come back up? A few of them are saying they won't, which is absolutely mental. Because there's teams that have went down and they've stayed down in League One for quite a while. Thankfully, we managed to get up. But if you look at teams like Falkirk, Dunfermline, have spent quite a few seasons down there. Rafe as well when they went down. Queen of the South as well. They went down a couple of seasons ago, and they've spent 4 seasons now down League One and haven't really challenged for the title. Inverness obviously had their financial issues, so that kind of gives them a buy a wee bit. Arbroath as well went down. I think they spent a season down there, a couple of seasons down there.
I
No,
know,
I think they
Arbroath
only
went
spent
down
a
and came
season.
straight back up.
Yeah, Arbroath came down straight, went back up. So there is a few teams that have done it, but I don't know. There's teams
It's not a
again.
guarantee. It's not a
Yeah,
guarantee, basically, what you're saying.
yeah, definitely not. And I can speak. I can speak for someone who has seen their team in League One, and it's not a good league to be in. I did not like that season. I only enjoyed like the last 3-4 weeks of that season when Falkirk collapsed and we managed to pull it on together and go up. I don't know if Morton will struggle down there. This is probably a classic case of me waffling once again, but I don't know. I'm struggling to think because there's a few Morton fans that are generally. I think they're right. I think they would come straight back up. Um, but there's some Morton fans that I think they will generally struggle if they go down, and it can become the reality on Friday. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's an absolutely mental state of affairs that all three of the teams find themselves in. And as I said, I generally will not be surprised if Airdrie win on Friday at Cappielow. I won't be surprised now. Um, but yeah, I don't think Ross County will get a result at Starks. I don't see it. I don't. I know they've picked up 2 wins. The last time we went up to Kirkcaldy, they get 6 put back them, and I don't see Ross County if they do win scoring more than one. So I don't know if that will change here, but I mean, stranger things have happened in football.
I think if Morton were to go down, they would struggle just basing off of who would be in League One next
Yeah,
season. Because you would have whoever fails to come up through the playoffs, whether that is Inverness, Stenhousemuir, Alloa, or Queen of the South. It's like Inverness are probably going to win the league. But, it's like depending on who wins the playoffs, you could have Alloa, you could have Queen of the South. Accies, they could stay up still.
yeah,
You could have to deal with them, and they're not being in the shit anymore, really. You have East Kilbride, who are set to win League Two. Them coming up, I think they'll be, it's like we know the sort of backing that they have. I think they would do really well next season in League One. I wouldn't be surprised if they're in the playoff challenge. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Morton end up in a sort of similar state as what we see with Queen of the South, where they're just sort of
mm,
like hovering in that sort of playoff spot. Where it's just like kind of hopeful on an eventual return to the championship, but it's like they would have to do it first time around. But if they weren't, then they would end up dropping into that sort of Queen of the South category with like the hybrid squads and whatnot. And how could I forget? It's like Ross County with Roy McGregor's millions in League One.
yeah,
It's like, well, yes, with this win, like, is County can't finish eighth just on the basis of yes, they're 3 points behind Morton, but they would need Morton to lose. Morton play Airdrie, it's like it's impossible. But it's like if they were to finish ninth, and then God forbid they stay up for the playoffs because it would turn the championship into hell. Um, it's like League One just becomes absolutely hellish for Morton because it's like they will have there's a sort of multi-club partnership deal thing that they're meant to be getting involved with a bunch of Portuguese clubs. I think it'll be really funny to have like a Portuguese winger at Greenock Morton playing away to Montrose. But it
playing
will
away
be.
East Kilbride.
Oh God. It'll just be. It'll be interesting to see how that sort of develops. But yeah, I would expect Morton to not come straight back up and not probably come up for a while. Maybe just depending on who comes down from the championship in following seasons. But it's like with County, as mentioned, it's a massive hope. It is very much. It is. It's in their hands in the case of they have to win to have. Well, it's like they must win. It's like a draw's not good enough. This depend. Although it is a case of it's like the goal difference swing is 6. So they have to win. They absolutely have to win on Friday because a draw is not going to be enough. Morton are not putting 6 goals past Airdrie. Well,
Nah.
even then, if it was 6 goals, it would be level on goal difference, goal scored. It would go down to head, and I think it's like 2 draws and a win each. But I think it's like Airdrie won 4-0 up at Dingwall a couple of weeks back, and that's going to be what the difference would be. So, it would take an absolute miracle for a draw to be enough for Ross County. They have to win Friday. And I was going through the results there. This is Ross County's first back-to-back victories since beating Queen of the South 1-0 and Edinburgh City 8-0 in the League Cup group stages. Their last league back-to-back wins was the middle of February when they beat Motherwell away and beat Dundee at home. And it's like they've got the worst away record, which is going to definitely be against them. And if I remember correctly, they haven't won 3 games in a row since 2021. So they're definitely up against it. But it's like Rafe as mentioned. It's like we don't really have anything to play for, so anything could happen. I'd be very happy if we send County down, as mentioned, thanks to the playoff heartbreak. But it would be interesting to see how this final fixture goes for those 3 teams. I think we'll just move on to the table now. So, of course, St Johnstone top with 74 points, Thistle second, 65. Arbroath and then Dunfermline, 51 and 50. Of course, they play against each other, so they can switch. Rafe on 42, Queen's Park on 40, and Ayr on 39. And then it's the big set, the final 3. Morton 37 with a minus 16 goal difference. Airdrie 35 with a minus 14 goal difference. Ross County bottom 34 points with a minus 20 goal difference. So we'll just go on to the final round of fixtures. Ayr United at home to St Johnstone. Again, nothing really riding on this. As mentioned, Ayr can theoretically finish 5th, but it's like the goal difference is an 8-goal swing, and they're playing the champions. It's not really going to happen. It's like St Johnstone, if they do get a win and a clean sheet, I think the clean sheet's required for it. I'm not sure if the win against Rafe broke the clean sheet record or not, but they're definitely in that realm of clean sheet record holders. Most points since I think Rangers won the league. I think it'll be a St Johnstone victory for that. Dunfermline are both, as mentioned, basically a dead rubber, like a sort of training game for the playoffs that they're going to play against each other. Although, of course, there's a case of swapping between 3rd and 4th and the whole sort of shenanigans with who gets home fixtures on the Tuesday and the Friday. Again, like you said earlier, if you think it would be 0-0, I wouldn't be surprised if it's 0-0 either. I don't really see much happening here. Partick Thistle, you guys are at home to Queen's Park. Again, just a case of getting minutes in the legs for that one.
Pretty much. Obviously, again, maintaining an unbeaten record at Florhill. I wouldn't want to, head into the playoffs, 3 games without a win. But I mean, I think a win would be good. Go out with a bang. Finish your regular season with a bang, heading into the playoffs. That'll be good. Finish with a win, give us that confidence. And again, our record against Queen's Park is pretty decent, to say the least. So, I would back us to get the win, but again, just about getting minutes in the legs, preparing for the playoffs, and avoiding any injuries, suspensions, that kind of thing. But not really it would have been good, obviously, if you had the title to fight for. That would have been fantastic. Firhill would have been packed and bouncing, but obviously that's not the case. I think it'll still be pretty busy. People obviously, if they don't get the chance to get the playoffs, they get to see their, support the team. Might be their last game. You know what I mean? So, but nonetheless, the fancy is to get the win. Not asked if they don't.
It's like the Queen's Park. Who knows? We might see a bunch of their youth cup runners up get a run out in that one. We then do, of course, have the big two games. Raith Rovers are at home to Ross County. That is a game that has somewhat surprisingly been picked for BBC coverage.
I thought that I went for Morton Airdrie, but
I was more expecting a sort of similar scenario as to what we had last year, where it was the cameras and like the main production was at what was it?
Falkirk.
Because it was Falk against Aki's had the main cameras, but then on the website you could still watch Livingston against Partick.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people were expecting something similar, but it's like with the main cameras and whatnot being at Cappielow and then the online viewing being at Starks. But no, I don't think there's actually any BBC viewing whatsoever for Morton against Airdrie, which is a surprise. A real surprise. Just considering what's riding on these games, that they sort of skipped that one. But I suppose there's a sort of theatrics of, it's like possible title favourites, promotion favourites, Ross County going back to back relegation, which, is equally as interesting, but mainly also really funny.
Definitely.
Considering if we had something to play for, I would be a lot more hopeful just because of the fact, last time around we pumped them 6-0. I still think, it's like with our home record and County's away record, I think we'll get the win or at a minimum the draw that is required to send County down for the greater good of the league next season. But yeah, and as you mentioned with Morton against Airdrie, it is just absolutely massive. I think Cappielow is going to be packed for that one. I believe.
Yeah, Airdrie
sold out their initial allocation. They had the initial allocation of about 700 in the main stand. I'm surprised that 700 people can fit in there.
I know, it's an absolute joke.
Having been jumped in there myself, I'm surprised that many people can go there.
Yeah,
but
I don't know why
they've opened up the wee Dublin end as well.
I don't know why they didn't initially open the wee Dublin end for it. I think obviously the tickets were sold prior to this, situation happening, where Morton and Airdrie kind of find themselves in a battle for relegation playoffs, etc. But the main stand is an absolute joke. I've been in it once and don't want to be in it again. At Cappielow, so good luck to the 700 Airdrie fans. I can see many Airdrie fans just sneaking into the wee Dublin end. Even that's a death trap, but it's a lot better than the main stand, especially in the sun. I do like the wee Dublin end in the sun. Hopefully, if it is sunny, then that'll be good for that. But I wouldn't be surprised if Airdrie fans try to sneak into the wee Dublin end, because fuck being in the main stand, especially with 700 Airdrie fans.
It's like the main stand is like it's like there is capacity of 700, but that's 700 people that are below 5'5". It does not fit an average human being in those seats. It is absolutely tiny. It is, but that'll definitely be the one to keep an eye on. That is it for this week. Of course, got to mention obligatory mention of the tournament we have at the end of May. Again, donation links will be in the descriptions and whatnot, and there's links everywhere for it, so it won't be too difficult to find. We will, of course, be back to cover the final weekend of the regular league season before the playoffs get underway, and we'll get to talk about who's got relegated, won't we? So it'll definitely be a very interesting one to go over. But yeah, that is it for this week. Thank you for listening/watching, and bye for now.
Take care. Catch you after.